Hey, it's Charlie. Gonna show you the pre-flop version of the stat checker I whipped up here in the past couple of days. This is using a smaller database, just personal hands over the past couple of years. Click on the hero profile. First tab is just the general and raise first in. Start with some bare bones overview pre-flop stats, VPIP, pre-flop raise, 3-bet, fold to 3-bet, call 3-bet, then your 4-bet stuff, 4-bet, fold to 4-bet, call 4-bet, 5-bet, and fold versus 5-bet. Not trying to compare to GTO stats there, just giving a general overview. Then we've got the raise first in, limping, and isolation stats down here. Raising first in by position, under the gun, all the way through small blind. We are comparing those to solver GTO frequencies. See, I've been a bit looser than typical compared to GTO, mostly going after fish, playing a few extra hands is primarily the reason for that. The open limp stat right here, really not open limping anywhere for any reason. Maybe some fractions in there, but by and large, that's not a part of my game. The last panel over here is going to be the isolation panel. So here's the isolation frequencies overall, and then by position. It's isolating pretty aggressively, maybe not quite as aggressive as I can be, but probably a bit more than would be able to be defended properly if the pool played back at them. Got a separate isolation stat for big blind versus small blind, is isolating out of the blinds against in position limpers is a bit different than isolating blind on blind when the small blind open limps. I do complete the small blind with limpers. I do over limp that particular spot pretty widely, so you see that's why I do have some limps in that spot. Moving on to the facing raise first in tab. We've got right here is just the leftmost table is going to be the general versus raise first in, regardless of sizing. And then you've got some sizing specific tables right there against some common sizing bands. You see 3x, 2.5, 2.25, and min raise. And then blind on blind, I use 3.5, 3, 2.5, and 2. You've got things just started there with an overall from any position, inverse any position right there. And then it further is broken down by positions that you're in, big blind versus button, cutout, middle position under the gun, etc., etc. I do have GTO frequencies extracted from a very complex 6-max solve in simple preflop that I purchased a year or two ago. I have this one table set up for the actual stats to adjust and highlight if they deviate too much from the GTO frequency. I'm still making some decisions on how wide a range I want to trigger the different colors and what color scheme I want to use. What I've got right now is if you're within 1% in either direction of the GTO frequency, it just goes to a standard gray. If you are if you're off by at least 1% but no more than 2%, then it's going to go to another color. I've got yellow on the loose or aggressive side, and I've got blue on the tight or passive side. And then I've got deviations of 2% or larger in either direction triggers a second color. I've got red on the looser aggressive side and green on the tighter or passive side. This solve does include cold calls in pretty much every position as well, which isn't really part of my game. But if you're looking at just a full complex sim that allows you to raise multiple different sizes or call in pretty much every node, we do have some GTO frequencies for 500 no limit rake baked into there. I still am making some decisions on the exact color scheme and the range around the GTO stats I want to use to trigger that color scheme. But other than that, you've got a pretty full example of what's going on here. Going to the verse 3-bet tab next, same idea. The leftmost table is just going to be general facing 3-bets, and then the tables to the right are going to be against specific sizing bands, which I commonly see 5x, 4.5, 4, 3.5, and 3, and then blind versus blind, 3.5, 3, and 2.5. Starting just with overall versus 3-bet, fold, call, and raise, then I break it down to when I'm in position or out of position, and when I'm in position on specific positions. So I'm folding 55% in position against a 3-bet, a little bit more when I'm on the button and cut off, a little bit less in the other positions, probably because the ranges are a lot looser pre-flop, and I have the more junk that just blatantly folds. Got this for in position and out of position. Then I've got specific position versus position setups there, so you can look at real specific things with smaller samples or real general trends with larger samples. Again, I've got the GTO frequencies for fold, call, and raise versus various sizes as extracted from that complex sim that I've got. Haven't set the colors to modify based on the stat value if it deviate too much from the GTO frequencies. But like I said, that's the last thing I've got to add in here. More of the same idea here. Pre-flop facing 4-bets. Leftmost table is just general, independent of size. Then you've got some specific sizing band tables over here. Again, like the 3-bet pots, I've got first overall facing 4-bets, then when I'm in position, then when I'm out of position, and then the specific position that is 4-betting me, versus cutoff, versus middle position, versus under the gun when I'm in position, how often I fold, call, or 5-bet back against those. Again, I've got some GTO frequencies from the sim extracted here for some of the common sizes. And finally, I've got some versus all-in 5-bet stats right here. Didn't try to break this down by position as those spots are so rare. I just want a general trend here, just overall, and then blind on blind when I'm in position or when I'm out of position. This same thing is also translated, to the range research section, which allows you to review the player pool. So what we just looked at right here, this report, those 4 tabs, that is for my own stats, my own database. But if I want to run that entire database of hands and analyze the pool as they're playing in those, you go into the range research, got the same thing set up here. I'll take a look at the regs first. Same idea, more data points obviously here as there's more regs than there are me at the table. We're seeing how the regs are generally V-pipping, pre-flop raising, 3-betting, etc. Their raise first in, their limb tendencies, all the same stuff we just went over in my stats on the hero reports right here. Get these for the pool as well. Again, the color coding exists for the one specific stat that I did them on versus the RFI, and I will update that and put that on all the other sizing bands and versus RFI versus 3-bet and versus 4-bet, so the colors will quickly show you where either yourself or the player pool is deviating too much. But got this same thing going on as I showed already for all 4 tabs versus 3-bet and versus 4-bet. Tighten that up, can get it all on one screen so it's all easily visible. Versus 4-bet as well. You can go ahead and take a look at the same thing in the versus fish profile. 660,000 data points there. Lots of players getting identified as fish in this particular database. It's also a bit trickier for hand to identify fish in anonymous games because the samples are smaller. But it still does a pretty decent job. You set up your filters correctly. And then just to make sure that these were splitting up correctly, I ran the pool as a whole without splitting regs and fish off, and I'm getting instead of 660 million, instead of 660,000 data points, I'm now getting 1.3 million data points overall. So this right here is for the pool as a whole. Probably not terribly useful for the stats because you want to look at regs versus fish. It's a very reasonable divide to make. But it is showing me that I am getting correct splits of reg and fish right there. That's about it. Good example right there. Like I said, I've just got to update the color coding for the stats, as we see this example right here. Look at how fish are playing that. See, fish right here are folding too little against the 2.5x in pretty much any possible formation whatsoever. Calling too much, and by and large not 3-betting enough. So that's the example of it right there. Hope you like what you see. Till next time, this is Charlie signing off.